Welcome back to the Bet Rivers Cricket Show. It's another World Cup special. 4 more matches to get through for you and best picks coming up. I'm Ed Hawkins, pro picker. Of course, John Wright is here, pro picker, former Oz compiler. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, not too bad, Ed. Yourself?
I'm good. We've got 4 more crackers for you this week on the Bet Rivers Cricket Show. How's that? A ton load of winners last week, so this is the place to keep it if you want to be winning on this Cricket World Cup. India versus Sri Lanka Thursday from Mumbai is a game we're covering. Best picks for that one. Afghanistan versus Netherlands. But look now on Friday, that's another one. And New Zealand versus Pakistan, Bengaluru on Saturday. Doubleheader on Saturday, Australia versus England from Ahmedabad. That should be a much bigger game than it is. It's effectively a dead rubber for England because they're almost certainly out. Mathematical gymnastics required for them to get through, but it's not happening, John, is it? Should we kick off with an outright, John? I'll just shout out some numbers for you. Bet Rivers futures for you. India plus 110, Australia plus 300, South Africa plus 350, New Zealand plus 600, and Pakistan plus 6,600, Afghanistan the same. It's basically the top 4, isn't it? However, India did struggle a bit against England. Is that a weakness for them batting first?
Possibly it is, yeah. I mean, I like the fact that India have had sort of 3 games where they've had to sort of really work hard. And that was one of them. I was very, very impressed with the way they batted and actually it wasn't until England batted that you realise the state of the pitch and what was actually a good score on that particular track. So I've been impressed with India right the way through. I mean, I'm hoping, obviously we've backed them, I'm hoping that they, when they get to the knockout stage, which they inevitably are going to, they don't put in a bad performance, because at the moment, I think they've got all bases covered. They've got players to come into the side, players that come into the side like Shami have performed well, players like Ashwin are waiting to play. So I think it's their tournament to lose. Australia are coming with a bit of a rally. Now they've got Head in the side. I mean, this is basically their strongest team. I wouldn't be surprised me if it's an India-Australia final. And South Africa, they're the other ones for me. I mean, on their day, they can bat anyone out of the game. So I think the winner will come from those 3. The vulnerable side of the semi-final will probably be New Zealand. I think Pakistan might push them for that 4th berth. So it'd be interesting to see who gets that 4th spot. I mean, I think New Zealand, although they played very well against Australia in a game which they looked like they were going to get heavily beat, I think they're probably the vulnerable out of the 4, Ed. Don't you agree?
Yeah, they could miss out. And of course, New Zealand versus Pakistan is a game we cover on this show. So we'll talk about best picks for that game. But we'll start off with India versus Sri Lanka on Thursday from Mumbai. Bet Rivers money line for you, -625 India, +425. I mean, John, we're looking at derivative markets here because I'm sure you'll agree that Sri Lanka are a dreadful side and they're not upsetting India. A couple of picks for me from the kickoff, because this is potentially such a flat wicket. Can see India batters dominating against a really poor Sri Lanka bowling lineup. And that's not necessarily their fault because they've got so many injuries. They've lost about 3 first-choice bowlers in this tournament. But Gill over 38.5 plus 100. Kohli and Rohit plus 100 at 39.5 overs on the runs. I'm going to swerve top bat for India because you might have a guy getting 110, 120, and it might not be enough. So man of the match, Rohit, Kohli, Gill. Rohit plus 650 with Bet Rivers. Kohli and Gill the same price at plus 700. Anything else pick?
No, I mean,
your fancy?
I totally agree with you, Ed. I thought that with India almost qualified, this could be the perfect game for Rohit to sort of be rested. But the fact that it's in Mumbai and he's a Mumbai Indian legend, I don't think he'll be missing this particular game. I think the way he batted against India, because he did really ground it out, didn't he? He played an unbelievable knock of 80 on that track, which is probably worth 140 on any other track. So I think he is the player in form. I thought if he plays, I thought plus 275 was a bet to be top batsman. And also, I probably thought that Sky at his home ground, Surya Kumar Yadav, plus 1,000. I thought that was a fair price, given that he played particularly well against England. He got 40 odd, and on his home ground, I thought he could be a smidgen of value. But I can't see there being an upset here. Sri Lanka have won 2 games. They've beaten 2 poor sides. One of them was England.
Yeah, over 98.5, highest individual score with Bet Rivers at -115 is another one for the notebook. We continue. 3 more games to come. Give us some love on the podcast provider of your choice. Also give Because We Win a follow on X, formerly known as Twitter, so you can win across all sports. Some great soccer and tennis content going up there all the time. Afghanistan versus Netherlands from Lucknow on Friday. John, this is a really interesting game. -305 Afghanistan against a very well-organised Netherlands team, +235. They don't know when they're beaten, the Dutch. They get themselves out of holes all the time and they really fight hard. I'm tempted to reckon Afghanistan are too short. Just quickly before we move on to derivatives, because we've got some interesting prices. Give me a quick view on that match of that money line.
Yeah, I thought Afghanistan were too short and potentially it could be a bit of a banana skin for them. They played very well. They've won 3 games. They've won, I mean, we go back to what we said earlier, Ed, didn't we? I mean, the first show we done, we both tipped Afghanistan to beat Bangladesh, and Afghanistan lost that game. And if you look at it now, that loss has probably given them sort of like cost them an outside chance of even qualifying for the semi-finals. They've been that good and that impressive. The fact that they've beaten England and Pakistan and recently Sri Lanka, they look very, very good. I like the way Faruqi came back into the side and got 4 wickets the other day. Their bowling attack, when you think about it, they can leave someone like a Noor out the side and bring Faruqi in. And I think a few of their fringe players seem to be playing really well as well. So I do like them. I wouldn't back them from the outright. I'd expect them to win this game. I'd probably be looking at something of the derivatives, and as I said, probably someone like Faruqi, because they're just looking at Bet Rivers' odds for top Afghanistan bowler. They seem to overemphasise on Rashid Khan and Mujib. They seem to be very, very short. So I think Faruqi at +375 to be top Afghanistan bowler is probably a little bit of value.
Good stuff. 3 picks for me, which caught my eye on Bet Rivers. Engelbrecht +1,000 to be top Dutch run scorer. He'll bat at number 4 or number 5, so it's a completely wrong price. Mujib over 1.5 wickets +110. Rashid -125 over 1.5 wickets. The Dutch really struggled on a 3-match series in 2022 against Mujib and Rashid. They lost 3-0, and those two did plenty of damage. So get those ones down in the notebook. Head over to Bet Rivers and have a bang on some of those ones. 2 more games to go. We haven't got any derivatives for New Zealand versus Pakistan because New Zealand in action as we go into production. Of course, all these prices subject to change. Games going on all the time in this World Cup. So it's all fast and furious stuff on the How's That Cricket Show with Bet Rivers. New Zealand -150, John. Pakistan +120. I have to admit, John, we might disagree here for one of the first times ever, I think, on this show. I mean, I just think New Zealand are going to be too strong, but you disagree.
I probably do. I mean, I think if South Africa beat New Zealand tomorrow, this effectively becomes a quarter-final game, doesn't it? Really, New Zealand versus Pakistan, and I agree with you to a certain extent. I mean, New Zealand have been very, very impressive, and even in the game they lost against Australia, where they were behind the 8 ball from the word go, and Australia got off to a blistering start, but they stayed in it right to the death. And at one stage, it looked like Jimmy Neesham was going to get them over the line. I was very, very impressed with them. They've obviously got Kane Williamson to come back into the side as well. So there's a lot to like about New Zealand, but I just think with Pakistan, I can just see them sneaking in there. I can see them probably maybe getting a result against South Africa. I can see New Zealand possibly losing against South Africa, and then this brings this game. I'd suggest if New Zealand lose to South Africa, the odds will definitely be a lot closer, and you could probably see it being almost like a pick'ems game. Because New Zealand have lost those last 2 games. Well, actually, they've lost their last 3 games. They lost to India as well. So
yeah, if they lose to South Africa, it'll be 3 in a row. Yeah,
3 in a row. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I was actually quite impressed with New Zealand against Australia. But I think if I was forced to have a bet now on the game, I think that the plus Pakistan is the value. I do for this game.
Yeah, I think Pakistan have probably worked out what their best team is just a little bit too late for this ridiculous frenetic run to the semi-finals, Mohamed Wasim should have been in the 11 from the kickoff. As soon as Naseem Shah was ruled out,
absolutely,
he should have been in the team. Mohamed Wasim was in the original squad, and then they parachuted Hassan Ali into the squad. Fair enough, but then he went straight into the 11, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And Hassan Ali has proved, to me at least, in my eyes, he is not a big game player. And makes mistakes all the time and just doesn't front up for me for Pakistan when it absolutely counts. Mohamed Wasim Jr., really terrific bowler, and he can give it a whack with the ball, with the bat as well, John. So I like Pakistan's lineup. They've got rid of Mohammad Nawaz as well. They're trusting 5 bowlers. I think they have to do that. They have to gamble now on those 5 bowlers doing them a job. So it's very interesting how they line up. Win rates for you in terms of batters to follow and bowlers to follow for this one. Will Young has the best win rate of any Kiwi player, but this might be a bridge too far against a real top quality attack. But he's probably going to be wrong price on win rate on Bet Rivers top bat. For Pakistan, Babar Azam is winning more than 30% of the time, maybe plus 275 you might get. And Shaheen Shah Afridi with the ball and Trent Bolt with the ball for Pakistan and the Kiwis respectively. Afridi close to 50% returns last 2 years. Bolt is over 50% returns last 2 years. One more game to go on the Bet Rivers Cricket Show. Australia versus England, Ahmedabad, Saturday. Australia minus 185, England plus 145. England, of course, is absolutely as good as out. I know we can't confirm it because there might be a meteor strike or something like that. But, I mean, interesting money line from Bet Rivers. What you'd kind of expect the money line to be if this was the first game of the tournament, no one had played. But the other way around, John, if we'd not seen any cricket, England would be favourites at minus 185, wouldn't they, for this game against Australia?
Absolutely.
Is this the time to back England now?
Well,
no, basically.
I just think with watching England at the moment just looks. I mean, they actually feel that they won a good toss against India and they fielded very, very sprightly in the field and they bowled well. It was nice to see Chris Wokes come back in the side and bowl well. But at the end of the day, their batting looks woeful. Absolutely, they're so out of form. The body language, it just looks. There's something not right in that England changing room at the moment. I don't know what it is. They've all been given central contracts, a lot of them at the back end of their careers. And I think, when you listen to Michael Mott, the coach, after the game, and he wasn't even aware that there's a qualification for the Champions Trophy, where England need to get into the top 8 to qualify for that trophy in 2025 in Pakistan. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And as you said, Ed, this rot started before Mott joined, didn't it? This bad trot for England effectively started after they won the 2019 World Cup at home when they were lucky to win it. They won it on a boundary count. And since then, in the last 2 years, as you said, Ed, their win rate against the top nations is lower than 50%. So it's not just happened. And I think, and then you throw into the fact that England in the subcontinent are not, they need a road, don't they? Their batting unit needs roads where they, 300 plus wickets where they can smash it. They haven't been getting them. And they're bang out of form. There's probably, with the exception of Joe Root, probably, there's not the quality of batting against spin is poor. Their application is poor. I mean, watching Butler and, England needed 4.5 and over against India. And even when they were 4 wickets down, you had Butler and Moeen Ali at the crease. And all you're asking them to do is probably bat for 20 overs to get them in the game. He couldn't do it.
Get me within hitting distance.
Yeah, there's no application there whatsoever. So to answer your question, if you look at the impetus, Australia look really at it at the moment. Heads in the side, straight in the side, gets 80 off of 50 balls, even though he hasn't played cricket for 6 weeks. For me, everything points to Australia really rubbing England's noses into it. And I think England are going to have to win those last 2 games against Pakistan and the Dutch to avoid not being in the bottom 2 and having to qualify for the pre-qualify for the 2027 World Cup. It's been that poor. So I come back to answer your question, Ed. I come back England at any price.
Well, that's pretty conclusive from John Wright. If you were thinking that that plus might be a bit of value on the money line with Bet Rivers plus 145, there is your answer. Agree with that stuff about not knowing that where they needed to finish for qualification for the Champions Trophy. I suspect they didn't think it applied to them. They were that arrogant that they didn't bother to even read the rules. The idea that it's just suddenly been thrown on them, I'm not buying it. Anyway. That's just a one view. Some prices to pick out for you from the derivatives market on Bet Rivers. Expecting Australia runs at Ahmedabad. England's bowling's been poor apart from that game against India, where they did actually show some gumption with the ball. But Ahmedabad is a flat wicket, and of course, it's the same venue where New Zealand creamed them to all parts, and it has looked good for batters. So Smith over 32.5 plus 100 with Bet Rivers is the first one I've got on my list. And again, as I said earlier, it could be a little bit spiky to be playing a single player to be top bat for Australia, because again, it could be a 110, 120 might not be enough for you. I mean, look at David Warner with that century the other day, and then Glenn Maxwell came in with the fastest World Cup ton ever. That was a real sickener for backers. So for a 50 then instead with Bet Rivers, Warner plus 125, Head plus 165, Smith the same price. And I've also got Australia highest first 15 overs score at minus 152, because Australia just absolutely gung-ho at the moment. Now they've got Head. Anything else picking your fancy, John?
No, I'd want to back Australia to win the game at the minus. Was it minus 182? I think that's fair. I think Australia will win. And I agree with you. I think the opening partner, if you look, I mean, Warner is just in great form. Head's just walked straight into the side and smashed it. England's openers at the moment with Bairstow and Milan look a little bit out of sorts. I mean, I think that's a smidgen of value, even at the minus, Australia to have the biggest opening partnership. So, yeah, I'd probably look at that. Head, I thought out of the two, Head at all the threes, plus 333 to be top Aussie bat was a smidgen of value. But I agree with you. I mean, he could get 120 and not be top bat, couldn't he?
Yeah. There you go then, Bet Rivers Cricket Show. How's that all done for you? We've discussed the futures market. We've discussed best picks for you throughout these 4 games that we've previewed. We're going to be back for more action from the World Cup. We're going to be previewing semi-finals. We're going to be previewing the final, of course. Load of winners last week. I think we've got some good winners as well coming up for this week. So keep it Bet Rivers Cricket Show. How's that? And we will see you next time.